on the big time on Sky Alpha HD. It's 37 minutes to 6 on a Woman Crush Wednesday edition. It's a Woman Crush Wednesday, so generally we'd have women as our guests, but what we decided on this occasion is we'd have some eye candy for the women. So we brought smokes, and then Mojo was like, "I'm coming too." So that's how we settled it. Bella, enjoy that, eh? Bit of eye candy for the ladies, hey? Hey, you like that? You actually can see the eye candy. Get onto Sky Alpha TV on the app, and you will see both my guests, K Moji and Mofelehetsi, who are in studio with me to discuss very, very important matters. Yesterday, the MPC, the Reserve Bank, or it's called the Central Bank here, got together, and the MPC made a statement. They cut the repo rate by 25 basis points. And Smokes and Mojo are both going to make us understand what that means. They're going to cover a range of topics. They'll talk about the economy. They'll talk about the post-COVID economy. And I think they'll talk about global economics and all kinds of revenge of the nerds type things. So wherever you are in the world, welcome to it if you just joined us. Follow us on Facebook, we're Sky Alpha HD, on Twitter we're Sky Alpha _HD, and on Instagram we're Sky Alpha HD _. Like I said, we are live on Sky Alpha TV. It's the first time the big time's been live on Sky Alpha TV. So shout out to everybody who's made it possible. I'll let you know who the production team is right at the end. In the background you've got Simply Red talking about money's too tight to mention. Is money too tight to mention, gentlemen?
In what? No.
Too true. Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Question.
How come we can't hear Bella?
Oh, because she's in here. She's in the cans. That's
okay.
all. Yeah.
So
but she can hear you.
Can she hear us?
Yeah, I'll be your messenger.
You'll talk to us through.
Yeah, she's saying that she can hear you.
All right, cool.
Khami's also on. So you.
Khami's also on.
Yeah. You got nothing for her?
Hi, ladies.
Moj.
Yeah.
How you doing, big guy?
No, I'm good, and you?
You trying to live?
I'm just trying to live.
Smokes, how are you doing?
I'm good, man.
You trying to live,
I'm
man?
actually excited about this. We should have fun.
Okay, I think we will.
And we need to make this a regular feature.
It's going to be a regular feature.
Yeah. We should definitely create something amazing.
You guys are gonna come and say smart stuff, and everybody's gonna be like, they're so smart.
And we're gonna filter it for the people to understand.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man.
Okay. Do you guys want to first tell us what the announcement from the MPC means for us as human beings? What does 25 basis points cut mean for the average man, and perhaps for economics in the kingdom?
I think first and foremost, I'd just like to say thanks for having invited us here.
You're welcome.
And giving us the opportunity just to actually just share this information.
Remind the people that it's your second time here.
Yeah. Yes, too true. I think first and foremost, I think it's important to note that there was a 25 basis points cut, and that's jargon for saying 0.25% cut on the CBL rate, which is our local reference rate.
Okay.
As to what that really means is that your CBL rate normally links to your prime rate.
Okay.
Prime is your benchmark lending rate, which was sitting at a rate of 8.5%, which is pretty much close to record lows, if not a record low. With this particular cut, it means it's gone down to 8.25.
Okay.
I think it's very hard to put it in context, but if you think historically where you'd normally see your prime rate sitting, it was not far-fetched to have it sitting at 15 or even 12.
Sheesh.
Recently, just before we had this cut, you were talking about a prime rate sitting in and around 10.25 to 10.75%.
That's right.
So it just creates an accommodative kind of environment that allows, let's say, the average household or business to say, okay, fine, even though I may have some kind of a debt load, here is a bit of relief that could help me get through this particularly tough environment. At the end of the day, it's not necessarily a matter of how much you have sitting in the bank. It's if you have less activity overall, and as a result you're not selling, that means you're not necessarily making the sales, you're not making your income, you're not making your profit. How then do you keep up with what would be your repayments and your repayment schedule?
Sure.
So this is one way that, let's say, the central bank pretty much lends everybody a helping hand in order to get through this particular
budget.
Yeah.
That's a really, really cool and succinct way of putting it. Thank you, Mojo. Smokes, do you want to give us some of the other outcomes of the MPC? What else is noteworthy from Dr. Matlanya's address yesterday?
So essentially two things happened. Khotso has touched on the cut in the rates.
Yeah.
The other one was the net international reserves that was increased from about $530 million to $550.
Okay.
So essentially that was done ideally in terms of keeping sure the Maluti,
For sure.
Maluti and the Rand are pegged together.
They stay pegged, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So these are things that the MPC or the CBL has to constantly be looking at to make sure that you maintain that interest rate parity.
Right.
Because you can't do one thing and not expect it to impact on the other.
Sure.
Yeah.
What is the impact of the SIRB, the Reserve Bank, having cut their interest rate as well? Was it last week or the week before? Mm-hmm. Is there any coincidence that we then had to do ours?
I think Mojo, you're best to actually.
I think let's put it this way. I think there's the common monetary area right now. Lesotho is part of the CMA, which is part of the common monetary area. So you find that policy tends to be aligned within that particular framework. That's not to say you can never have an environment whereby any of the other counterparties then sits slightly above or below where the SA benchmark sits, depending on how they see their book. But ordinarily what you need to do is you have to move together, because you are pretty much selling yourselves to the world as a region, so to speak, by virtue of using the same currency.
Sure.
So that has filter effects, and in order to keep that in check, you have to have a certain amount of hard currency that then backs that particular peg.
Okay.
I think something that's a bit less known would be, I think if you really look at that particular statement, there is a bit of positive news that actually came out, whereby they stated that with the current reserves that they have right now, they're sitting at roughly 4.7 months worth of import cover,
okay,
of which the minimum that you'd expect to have in order to maintain a peg is 3 months. If you look not too far, a year or two back, you find that our import cover went down as low as 3.3 months.
Mm-hmm.
So you have seen some kind of gradual recovery on that side. I think sometimes we all look at some of the negative things that happen, but nobody really says when there's some good yards that have actually been ground out by those who actually have to make those decisions, and it's not easy.
I hope the people that are listening are understanding what Mojo is saying. I just heard wah, wah, wah. It's like being in Charlie Brown's math teacher's class. Smokes.
Yeah.
Give us a brief economic overview of global...
Of what's happening.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good start.
Yeah. It's terrible.
It's bad, real bad, Michael Jackson.
Correct. So if you take about a month ago, the expectations from the global recession is pretty... We can seal that in to say the whole world is going through a recession.
Yeah.
From a numbers perspective, you're looking at about a decrease of about 5% that is expected, somewhere around there.
Sheesh, okay.
Whereas usually, as a world, we like to go forward. So we like to see positive growth.
Yeah.
So a recession basically means you've got 2 quarters of negative growth.
Yeah.
And the moment you have that, then you're officially in a recession.
Technical recession.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the US, they're going through it.
Yeah.
We've seen the negative growth come through.
Sure.
The European Union, we've seen that come through.
Sure.
Asia is happening. So sub-Saharan Africa and the emerging markets, you tend to find that they exhibit positive growth.
Okay.
But what's happening now is that growth has
because of how low the base is.
Exactly. But right now it's kind of slowed down, and you're looking at the region of about, I think the last number that I read was about 3%.
Okay.
You haven't seen that in a very long time.
Oh.
So in context, where exactly are we? We're looking worse than 2008.
No!
So when you ask yourself what happened in 2008, in the mortgage-backed crisis, and it took us about 3 years to get out of that.
Yeah, Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae.
Exactly. So essentially, that's where we are. So what governments are doing to respond is to stimulate the economy. All right. So COVID has hit us bad.
Yeah.
We're going to slow down in growth.
Right.
We need mechanisms in place that are going to stimulate the economy.
All right.
So on one hand, you've got the Monetary Policy Committee, which is what has been happening yesterday and in the previous month. So they've been cutting rates. So rates have been coming down.
Sure.
And the idea is so that more money can come into the system.
So the more I borrow, the more I can spend. The more I can spend, the more I can stimulate the economy.
So you've got the MPC, which is the central bank.
Sure.
But then you've got as well, you need what's called fiscal policy.
Right.
So that also has to stimulate the economy. So fiscal policy is the actual government expenditure.
Right.
And then this time is how do you help the economy through monetary policy.
These two things have got to come and mesh.
Exactly. So what's happening in Lesotho is, unfortunately, we're not hearing what's happening on the fiscal side of things. Nakosek is still to come out and say we're going to do A, B, C, D, and that's what I was asking you earlier.
Yeah.
What is the official statement? And we're expecting the 1st of August.
Okay, so we've got Nakosek coming on next week, so they will come and hopefully answer some of these questions.